Check out my limited edition Aliens shirt from Fright Rags. It's really cool, right? They're not paying me money to say that. What's up, Internet? It's just me today. I just saw a movie called Baskin from this year. Baskin is a Turkish horror film directed by Evrenol, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, starring several actors whose names I will butcher if I even attempt to pronounce them, so I'm just going to give you this picture of my whiteboard instead. Do with that what you will. It's a feature adaptation of Evrenol's short film of the same name, and it centers around 5 policemen who receive a call from a location in an abandoned factory and end up stumbling through a door to hell, and shit gets crazy. So I'd heard pretty good things about this movie before I had seen it, and I was kind of looking forward to it. I had been like meaning to watch it for a while, and I finally got around to it yesterday, and I was underwhelmed. Really underwhelmed, because I was hearing great things about this movie, and then I heard people compare it to Hellraiser meets Silent Hill, and in all fairness, I can see where they were getting that from, because there's some seriously like Silent Hill and Hellraiser-esque imagery in this movie, but I'm less than satisfied. That's not to say it's bad. It's actually, it wasn't a terrible film. It was just really disappointing because it had so much more potential than it ended up living up to. Visually, this movie's stunning. It's really like beautiful to look at, and they do one of my favorite things in any horror film, which is when you can take imagery that is horrible to look at and make it visually appealing. I think that's a brilliant thing that any horror film that can pull that off, I have to give props to, because that is always a really impressive thing to do. Past that, though, Baskin sort of fails. It introduces a bunch of really interesting concepts, and it has a bunch of really interesting ideas, and it doesn't know what to do with them, and so it just sort of introduces these glimpses of a cool idea and then never explores them. So you're just left with more questions than answers, and by that I mean you're left with all questions and no answers by the end of this movie. And so that's really disappointing. The acting wasn't bad. The directing wasn't bad, but what this movie really fell apart was the script and the way the story was told, because there were several points leading up to the ending where I thought I knew where it was going, and I was like, ooh, this is really cool. I wonder if this is what's going to happen. And they never explore any of the things that they introduce, so it just really falls flat in the end. They play around with all these concepts of the hell is in the mind, and they play around with like the idea of like the concepts of time and hell and life, and it never goes anywhere, and that's really disappointing in the end. Visually, though, there's some great imagery in this movie. It's very gory. There's just some very Silent Hill-esque like creatures crawling through the like mud and just like having weird blood orgies, and it's really just strange. And that's the best way I can give this, like, that's the best word I can use to describe this movie, is strange, because it's not really good. It's just kind of a disappointment in the long run. When you get to the end, you're just left kind of going like, all right, that was it. Like, it's not really anything special, and I think I was really disappointed because I was expecting a lot more, given all the positive feedback that I was hearing about this movie. So when I saw like what it was in the end, I was really just kind of let down. It's not the worst film I've ever seen, but given all the good shit I heard about it, it definitely was not the best. And I don't know if it was, maybe it's a cultural gap. I don't know much about like Turkish ideas of hell. I can't speak for that. But based on just as an outside viewer watching this movie, I was really kind of let down. Great visuals, though. Excellent visuals. If you like just like impressive visual storytelling, if you're a kind of person who loves like just style over any substance, I think you'll like this movie. You should check it out. Maybe you'll dig it. It's worth noting that I'm a fan of style over substance horror. I'm a fan of Fulci movies. I like Argento. But in cases like those films aren't really trying to say more or be more than what they are, which is just crazy, visually like crazy and entertaining fun. I haven't seen the short, so I don't know what the source material is, so I can't really even judge it comparing it to like the original short film that it was based on. But seeing it just myself without any real just as an outsider without any real prep or knowledge of the like concept, or just as a regular audience member, I was really disappointed. I'm gonna give Baskin a C minus because while its visuals are really impressive and for the first 45 minutes it relies on them fairly well, it falls flat when you get to the last like third of the movie because it just ends up being a letdown in terms of story because there is no real story. That's Baskin. Maybe we'll touch on the short at a later date, but for now, indie horror guy here. I like watching indie horror films and reviewing them by myself. Like, comment, subscribe.